Watch this.
Christian nationalism is taking a more localized approach. The host of the Extremely American podcast explains why what's happening in Moscow, Idaho, should concern the rest of the state and the country. They've served sweet treats in Boise for more than 75 years. Now Lee's Candies is going back to its beginnings by returning to downtown. Some of the games have changed over the years, but so has the way we cover the Olympics. A look back at Athens shows us how far we have come and how long it takes to bring it to you. To say Christian nationalism is having a moment right now might be a bit of an understatement, mostly because that moment has lasted more than a minute in Idaho. One just has to look at the abortion ban that was passed in 2020 and the legislation passed since then with regard to Idaho's LGBTQ+ community. The transgender athlete ban, the bathroom bill, the gender-affirming care bill, the pronoun bill, and the library bill, which was focused on books with LGBTQ themes. All of those laws have come at the direction and guidance of conservative religious lobbyists like the Heritage Foundation, Alliance Defending Freedom, and the Idaho Family Policy Center. While the Christian nationalism movement has been getting serious consideration recently, nationally, it's been literally and figuratively gaining ground in the Gem State's original college town for many years, which is why the movement and Moscow is the center of a locally produced podcast where those leading the crusade are not shying away from sharing their plan.
I think the Christian faith is the ideal moral doctrine and principles for a thriving society.
Christian nationalism is the focus of a new season of Extremely American.
So theocracy is an inescapable concept.
Pride parades absolutely would be illegal.
A podcast hosted by Boise reporter Heath Drusen.
With Christ Church, everything spoken is sort of fact.
Heath learned if your target is an American theocracy, it helps to aim first at small-town America.
Welcome to Moscow!
They want to make Moscow, Idaho, an explicitly Christian town. They want Moscow, Idaho to run by Christian principles.
They are the leaders and members of Moscow's Christ Church, a Calvinist congregation under Pastor Doug Wilson.
They want basically everything in the town to have the Bible as a foundation and the Bible as they see it, as they interpret it.
Christ Church has been at the forefront of the Christian nationalist movement, a topic at first Heath wasn't too eager to tackle.
And all of a sudden, mainstream politics and Christian nationalism are intersecting.
We are going to take this nation back for the glory of God, then we are going to lose it all, ladies and gentlemen, because when we lose the church, we lose society.
And what they want to do beyond Moscow, way beyond Moscow, is they want America to be a theocracy. And they don't mean a majority Christian nation demographically. What they mean is they want the U.S. government to run according to biblical principles, and they want anything that they see as unchristian to not be part of society.
In the podcast, Moscow is the petri dish for this push toward biblical policies.
Moscow's kind of a blueprint for the bigger picture.
They're not hiding anything.
No. What I'm telling you is not my interpretation. It's what their leaders said into my microphone.
I'm the senior minister at Christ Church in Moscow, Idaho. I've been serving in that function since 1977, and you all have my permission to use whatever's recorded here.
Heath says he spent a year looking into what's happening in Moscow and spent hours with Pastor Doug Wilson.
And when they started to talk to me, what I realized was they're very proud of what they're doing. They think they're in the right. They think they're literally on a mission from God. But you'll hear in the podcast from these guys, you won't hear me saying, this is what they think. You'll hear them saying, this is what we think. You get the blueprint from the people who are planning this takeover.
What especially worries some people in Moscow is their ideas. And Doug has a lot of ideas.
In your ideal America, do non-Christians get to hold office?
No.
Okay. And can women vote?
It depends. So in our church, in our polity, households vote.
And in Doug's world, the head of the household is almost always a man.
Okay, but that means ultimately it's the man's decision unless a woman's husband has died or she is...
unmarried or, yeah. Right.
What it essentially means is that most women don't get to vote.
However, through elections, Heath discovered, is how the church plans to gain a tighter grip on the town. That and entrepreneurial expansion.
We estimate about 20% of downtown Moscow is owned by either Christ Church or their members.
Which has led to some conscious choices on where locals spend their money in this college town.
There's definitely more of a schism and more of a them and us kind of thing.
So what stood out to you? What did you learn from this?
So what stood out to me was I had this notion of these patriarchal ideas that, men should lead, women should be obedient. I kind of knew that. What I didn't understand is that it's not just an idea, it's the idea for a lot of these folks. It's the foundational idea for them, for society.
When you say women's suffrage, it sounds like you're saying it was a mistake. Do you think that they should not have the right to vote, period?
It really drives so much of what they do and what they want America to look like. And I think everybody should pay close attention to that. Obviously, women in particular, I don't know that people quite understand how much of a radical shift in your citizenship that would look like. Part of the reason this is so important is because it will matter to you in a very personal way if you're not in their world, because your rights will change and you won't get more of them. Yeah. You'll get less.
He told us he was reminded during this year-long experience just how much local elections matter. The latest episode of this podcast just dropped this week. There's going to be 8 total, we were told, plus some bonus episodes. But there's no way, obviously, that we could get into all of what they cover. For example, in the podcast, you'll learn why Pastor Doug Wilson was almost run out of town over his views on slavery, what the church considers non-Christian, and the numerous accusations of sexual assault within the church and school. You'll also hear from the women who have left the church because of how they were treated. Well, if you're already making camping plans for next year, you're going to have to wait on those state park reservations. And somebody who doesn't really have to worry about what he's doing next year because he's been sentenced to life in prison, well, he could be facing, or back in court, facing a murder charge. Here's Joe Paris with the 411.
The inmate who fled a Boise hospital in a gunfight is now in Nez Perce County to face murder charges. Idaho State Police accused Skylar Mead of murdering 83-year-old James Monty during his prison escape. ISP is also connecting Mead to a murder that happened in Clearwater County. Police are labeling him as a high-risk, high-threat inmate. Mead was sentenced to life in prison less than 2 weeks ago for the escape at St. Alphonsus in Boise earlier this year. The early bird isn't getting the worm this time. Idaho State Parks is pausing camping, cabin, and yurt reservations for 2025. They say the blackout is necessary in order to transition to a new, better reservation system. Reservations will reopen on January 6th of next year when the new system is launched. For people with existing reservations in 2025, Parks and Rec will move those to the new system automatically. This pause does not affect 2024. Anyone wanting to make reservations for the rest of this year, you can still log on and do so. The November election is right around the corner, less than 100 days away, and so is the scramble to get enough poll workers to work said election. To get ahead of things, the Ada County Elections Office held an open house earlier for people that are interested in participating by volunteering. If you missed this and you'd like to learn more, you can visit the Ada County Elections website. The Lime Point fire burning along the Snake River near the Idaho-Oregon border has burned almost 19,000 acres. None of the fire is contained, and the areas around Bear and Cuprum are under a Level 3 evacuation order. The Forest Service says lightning started this fire. And firefighters continue to make progress on the Durkee fire continuing to burn in eastern Oregon. That fire has burned almost 294,000 acres, but it is now 58% contained. And finally, progress is also being made on the Badlands Complex fire burning across I-84 right near the Durkee fire. Containment is now at 73%. For your 411 on the 208, I'm Joe Paris.
Lee Knockleby opened his candy shop in downtown Boise in 1947, then moved it to the Vista Village on the Boise Bench in 1972. And for more than 75 years, locals have known it as Lee's Candies. Lee used recipes from his father to handcraft chocolates and confections, and it survived through 3 generations with new owners. But original recipes, and the company's motto, never change your quality. Those have all remained as timeless as the sign outside the shop. Okay, so some things have changed, but traditionalists will be happy to know Lee's is returning to its roots. Here's Hunter Funk.
Hello, welcome in. Unwrapping something sweet. After
77 years,
it's time to whip up.
Is that milk or dark for you?
A new batch of opportunity.
clusters, dark chocolate. This is the grand opening of our second location. Hey, how's it going?
Lee's Candies' second shop is in downtown Boise.
Thank you so much for coming down and supporting us on the grand opening.
This is awesome. The first shop opened in 1947 on Jefferson Street. And with this new spot just down the road, it not only pays homage to its past, but owner Katie Fernand says the foot traffic also sweetens the deal.
And that's something we don't see at Vista. People come to Vista Village to come to the candy store. They don't come to kind of walk around. Whereas downtown, people are out to eat, they're out looking at things. We're right by Freak Alley. So a lot more foot traffic, a lot more exposure.
But why are they just now expanding after 77 successful years?
You know, I don't know. I think we were feeling pretty cozy and comfortable with what we were doing, but as the valley has grown, we decided maybe it was time for us to grow too.
Fernand says she doesn't want people to worry. The Lee's Candies in Vista Village isn't closing. There's just going to be 2 places to fix that sweet tooth now.
All right, Karma, what else?
There's no sugarcoating it.
How are you folks doing?
What will this mean for their motto? Never change your quality.
You came to the right place.
Fernand says, don't fear. She has a solid team to ensure they can keep up with the demand.
I really relied a lot on my employees who are awesome and do a great job. My production manager, Shelby, I check in with her regularly and like, are you feeling overwhelmed yet? Is it too much? But she's cool as a cucumber. She's just up production and we're doing just fine.
Dozens of people filled the store, excited about the new location.
It's grand opening.
And like their chocolate, Fernand's is eager to see how the business will unwrap and form from here.
Oh, I hope we just keep growing. And I'd love to see maybe in the future, if this store does well, maybe we open up a 3rd location and just take it from there. Come back and tell me what you like the best.
And all of the chocolates and handmade candies will still be made at the Vista Village kitchen. So again, we shouldn't see that go away anytime soon.
Which is good because we're getting messages as this story is airing, like, why can't we have both? So both will be there. And I assume you're going to still see the same chocolates in both places.
Exactly. They're just making it at Vista Village. They're bringing it to the next location. So everything's going to be there. That's the hope.
That's the hope.
Yeah, they better keep both.
Okay, so let's see what happens. Maybe a 3rd location.
Yeah, and all I will say is there was new things in there.
There are new
things. The other thing.
Like?
Spicy hot chocolate.
People like mixing jalapeno and chocolate a little bit.
I don't know. I couldn't. People were sweating. Everyone I went in there and they were like, oh, I tried that hot one.
Oh.
Yeah, so.
It's like an habanero pizza. It's like you can only take so much.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, thanks, Hunter.
Some of the sites here across the Treasure Valley in southern Idaho in summertime. We've got the wildfire smoke and some of those hotter temperatures are sticking around too. So our unwanted house guest is back and sticking around, unfortunately, that being the triple-digit temperatures. Right now, 101 degrees over in Boise. The air is quite dry as well, but the winds are a little on the lighter side, which will be helpful for any firefighters in the area, generally speaking. As we look across the Treasure Valley, you can see a couple other spots also in the triple digits, close to that mark over in the Magic Valley. And so we are close to records today, but as we get towards tomorrow, we'll be seeing those. In some spots, we're expecting to exceed the records. And we did get a break from the triple digits about 6 days, but again, those are back for today and sticking around. Tomorrow's the expected warmest day of the time period, roughly the next 7 days or so. In Boise, the record tomorrow is 103 degrees. We're expecting the high to be 107. Ontario falling just a bit short of the record, but Twin Falls looking to break it by just a single degree. And the smoke is expected to stick around as well. You can see, looks like tomorrow morning, we may be seeing some of those more brilliant sunsets just like we looked at as the smoke concentrations increase once again. Air quality has degraded a little bit this afternoon. Some spots now in the unhealthy force sensitive groups. You can see a lot of this just staying in the mix through much of the weekend as well. And so the smoke and the changes in air quality is one thing to watch. Also, we've got scattered thunderstorm chances throughout the weekend, and so that will increase the fire danger as well. All that time, we're also expecting the near record high temperatures to continue. So when we talk about moisture and the fire danger, you can see, looks like the potential has lessened a little bit for Eastern Oregon tomorrow evening, which is good for the possibility of starting new fires. But as we look at Saturday night, you'll see some of those chances ramp back up again, even in the overnight hours. Typically, we don't see as much thunderstorm activity in the overnight hours because we lose some of that energy in the daytime heating, but it looks to continue even in the morning, the very early morning hours of Sunday. So as you look at your 7-day forecast, you'll notice Boise a little bit on the lower side for some of the potential for those some thunderstorms, but they will be in the mix. All in all, staying very hot, but we are expecting that first alert weather stretch to end as we get closer to Tuesday, as we dip below 100 degrees.
You know, making the Olympic Games easy to access from your living room or from your cell phone these days is really no easy task. It requires years of planning, thousands of people, and well, hundreds maybe, and a lot of cameras. A lot has changed over the decades. For example, the Olympic mountain biking had a drone following the riders during the race, shooting live videos so you could be right there with them. I don't think we've seen that before. In today's 208 Redial, we're going to take you back to 2004 when Mark Johnson, that is, showed us what things were like during the 2004 Olympics in Athens.
A little perspective now on exactly the logistical situation here in Athens. We're in the NBC workspace where about, well, 24 of our NBC affiliate colleagues are working. We're presenting the tape here and we're putting it on the air for you. Now to do that, we have to go to a live shot location. To get there, I'll show you what that takes. Start the watch now. Have to be really careful on the Athens streets. Lots of traffic. Come on. One of the things you'll notice on the route to our live shot location, there's a lot of unfinished business here in Athens, as you might expect. That looks beautiful. Some of the other spots, not so much. We're about to go through what's called the mag and bag. This is a security checkpoint. They have to make sure that you're not bringing in anything that could possibly do any harm to anyone. We have to stop rolling right now. We'll see you on the other side. All right, we're through. It took about 5 minutes, but it's a necessary evil, obviously, for the safety of the athletes and the fans and the organizers of these games. So now that we're through, let's make our way to the live shot location. Now you notice much of the ground around the venues is still unfinished dirt. They say it's for two reasons. Kind of reminds them of the first modern games from 1896. This, however, the reflecting pool with the fountains, very much 2004. And here are our friends from KSL TV in Salt Lake City. Hey, you guys were on the home stretch. How you doing? You okay? Doing good, doing good. All right, you're almost there. This, of course, is the Today Show. You recognize the banners, a familiar set. That, of course, is where Katie and Matt and Al will be coming to you every morning here on 7. And that means we're just about home. 17 minutes, 6 seconds. And here we are, ready to bring it home to you. Look at Olympic Stadium, ready for opening ceremonies coming up.
You know, a couple other things have changed since 2004. Back then, we were keeping tabs on 12 athletes that we considered part of Team Idaho, including Stacy Dragila in the pole vault, Rulon Gardner in wrestling, Ian Waltz and Jared Rome in the discus, Joachim Olsen in the shot put. He threw for Denmark, but he did go to the U of I. Just like the other athlete we were following back in 2004, Idaho's 3-time gold medalist Kristen Armstrong made her Olympic debut in Athens. She finished 8th in that road race, but she was the top U.S. finisher, which I'm guessing only fueled her fire to win gold in 2008, 2012, and 2016 in the time trials. Back then, we sent 2 staff members to cover those dozen athletes. This year, we haven't sent anybody. to keep an eye on the 10 we have on Team Idaho. That's not going to stop us, though, from keeping track of them and keeping track of the medal count. Right now, we're looking at U.S. still atop of the leaderboard at 37. We've bumped up our gold total to 9. You can see in second, there's the home country of France with 27. China right behind them with 24. Australia and Great Britain round out the top 5. Our final few moments of this Thursday episode of the 2-8. Let's get through as many comments as we can. David in Boise County says, being a Christian is fine, but being a Christian who thinks everyone else has to be, not so fine. Getting a lot of that today. Christian nationalists seem to have forgotten that we live in the United States of America. They may think they can dictate for others, but they will fail, says B&B. And this is a theme we're getting a lot of this today. U.S. Constitution and elections are main defenses against the Christian nationalist movement, says Jack in Boise. Elections, maybe. Constitution, possibly, because there's not supposed to be a religious test to any of this stuff. But a lot of people keep pointing to this, where's the separation of church and state? That is not anywhere in the Constitution, and the Christian nationalists will be first to point that out to you. They still believe that their right is, or their way is the right way to do this. And as we keep saying, keep tabs on those local elections. That's kind of where you need to focus right now.